Ladies and gents, welcome to your 6.2 Protection Warrior Guide for Warlords of Draenor! Hellfire Citadel is the current raid and likely to be the last raid, and I'm here to hopefully teach you, whether you're just about to start tanking or you've been tanking for a while, some stuff that can really help you out in being a good tank, because a good tank makes a hell of a fucking difference, guys. It really, really does. So hopefully I can help you out with that. What are we going to be looking at today? We're going to drop a lot of baggage. There's a lot of baggage that comes with warriors, depending on where you're looking at. First thing I really want you to shed the load of is the idea of what is mathematically correct, okay? There's a lot of stuff that flies around about tanks that really boggles my brain. It really does, and always has, is people trying to sit down with, like, crafted and simulated numbers and try and work out exactly which talent and stuff is the exact best. Honestly, with the way the game works right now, you're going to be changing them all the time to suit the situation. And no amount of simulated and stuff will actually give you any better feel or any better decisions than actually going, oh, okay, I need this in the fight and that's going to help. So shed that baggage. Don't worry about that kind of stuff. The basics of the Protection Warrior are really quite simple. It's when we get into the gameplay, which you'll be doing and can't really simulate, that you have to make a lot of different decisions all the time. Now, it's not difficult, but it's stuff you have to think about, and it's what makes the class super fun, in my opinion. I love this thing. This is why I chose it as my main class. I absolutely adore it. There's lots of choices to be made. So, what is the Prot Warrior all about? Obviously, a lot of people seem to think tanking is basically just having aggro, which means mobs are attacking you and not dying. And that's kind of the healer's job. Absolutely not. That's not the way tanking really works in the current model. The idea is we are desperately trying to achieve one thing when we're tanking. And that is just smooth damage intake. So what do I mean by that? Smooth damage intake is predictable income of damage so your healers never panic. We don't want healers to panic. If your healers go through a whole fight without panicking about you, you've done a really good job, guys. Like, tremendous job. Because they're using efficient heals on you. They're able to focus on other raid members who are being goofballs. And just generally coping with the things that healers are supposed to cope with. Because the game is modeled around the idea that your tank shouldn't be doing crazy things. So what's smooth damage? Smooth damage is not spiking. Okay, you've probably always been in that tank situation where suddenly your health drops to like 20% and then it needs to go all the way back up and then it drops down and you start panicking. When you're in that scenario where you're like, oh shit, I'm about to die, you start doing things like shield walls, last stand, you'll pop everything under the fucking sun, and that's a really bad situation to be in. What we want to do is create a scenario where our health dips, because we're going to take damage, we're tanking, that's going to happen, where it dips, but it doesn't dip so much that it's terrifying, okay? So it can go to like 60%, then back up and 70%. And you want to keep a reasonable buffer zone of health, and the way we do that is by active mitigation. You've probably heard this phrase thrown around, or you understand what active mitigation is, but I often find people use it wrong when dealing with the Prot Warrior. Our main source of active mitigation is shield block. Now, bear in mind, shield block only blocks physical attacks, something to be really aware of, and you'll be surprised to find how many spells look like magic, but are actually physical, and you can actually block them. So the big question you should always ask yourself when tanking is, can I block this? If it's an ad, say like on Hellfire Council, if any of you have fought that and you're doing Deer, who's just spams spells at you, then you can't block those, right? They're just magical spells, can't block it. So you then spending 60 rage, which is the flat cost of a shield block, on that spell is an absolute waste of time. It's doing nothing for you, and she's just going to be hitting you in the face. But you could also spell reflect it and laugh in her face. So our other active mitigation tool is shield barrier. This is this kind of thing that's to back up shield block. Most things are physical, but in the case they're not, we have shield barrier. Now, shield barrier is considerably worse, in my opinion, than shield block for one big obvious reason that I think people don't really think about when they talk about these spells. So you need a minimum of 60 rage. So you can see an add-on here, which is just giving me my rage count, okay? Because I'm making a lot of decisions based on how much rage I have. So when I pop shield block, you can see there, shield block comes up, and I have this for a duration of time. Now, this will never disappear until the actual timer runs out. That's really important to understand, guys. Is when you pop shield block, it's up for its full duration. If I pop shield barrier, you can see I have shield barrier, and hopefully if this thing can hit me hard enough, then it disappears. The thing with shield barrier is it puts up an absorb. Okay, put some absorb, but that absorb can be crunched in one hit or even half a hit, from especially when you get into the more difficult mythic bosses in Hellfire Citadel, that shield barrier will just be crunched. It'll just disappear before you even know what's going on. It still did its job, it still did its absorb, but compared to shield block, which is just up and constantly blocking, you know, attacks, every single attack in that window, it's really not as good. So it's there as like a supplement, or if you're taking a lot of magical damage, okay? So bear that in mind. Now, active mitigation. What you'll notice about shield block is you can easily get enough rage to keep shield block up. That's fine. That's never a problem. We generate rage via our shield slam and revenge, so we obviously want to prioritize those two attacks as much as possible. Bear in mind they can reset themselves, okay? So we can get extra uses out of these. But you'll notice that shield block has a 12-second recharge, but only lasts for 6. So that means after 3... we have this weird period of time where we can't shield block. Very dangerous, guys. Oh my, it's super scary. Because now you're taking what's called unmitigated damage. Okay? That boss is literally hitting you as hard as he can. And managing this is a good sign of a prot warrior. What I tend to see is a lot of people do something like what I'll show you now, which is go like just, oh, shield block's off cooldown, I'm going to use it. So I have my shield block up. I should have removed my set bonus here, which might proc a shield block. And another shield block, it just ran out. And then I keep going, I got 3 seconds, I can get the rage, and shield block immediately, and keep going. And then what happens here, because of the recharge times and whatnot, is, see, I've got 5 seconds now where, during this window, guys, I have no active mitigation up, and I'm in serious fucking trouble. And then I can shield block again. And you have this 6 seconds. Now, you might say, 6 seconds, Preacher? Get the fuck out of here with 6 seconds. What's 6 seconds? It's not going to matter. 6 seconds is a lifetime when a big-ass boss with a weapon that's 17 times bigger than your Tauren is hitting you in the face unmitigated. So managing that is a big, important part of being a prot warrior. The way I like to think about it is like this. Would you rather take 6 seconds unmitigated or 3? I think the answer is obviously 3. So what you tend to be able to do is let maybe one attack through. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to pad this up before the prot warriors lose their fucking mind. Is let 1 or 2 attacks or 1 or 2 seconds worth of attacks through before then putting the shield block up. What you've actually done there is create, yes, there was a window where this boss was hitting you, but that window was only for a couple of seconds. And then you got your active mitigation up, which then created a smoother overall plan. Now, this is based on just the boss hitting you in the face. Now, what you'll also have noticed is while I had no shield block to use, I had full rage. Which means you can then build into the gaps where shield block's not up. With things like shield barrier, because obviously we want to spend our rage on either shield block or shield barrier. So if you have full rage and you're not looking forward to anything mega coming, we'll talk about that shortly, then shield barrier bridges that gap. Okay, so bridges the gap between shield blocks. And also you do have things like Demoralizing Shout. It's only a 1-minute cooldown, okay? And it reduces the damage they do to you by 20%. Now, no, that's all damage. It reduces all the damage that the boss will do to you by 20%. This is a super powerful cooldown. Doesn't get enough respect, in my opinion. Is you can either use that to bridge the gaps unless you need it or something big. So that's how we generally do smoothing of damage intake. So I hope that makes sense to you. Is we want shield block uptime, especially when we're taking physical damage, obviously, to be as much as possible with a smaller window where it's not up as possible. Nice, easy idea for you there. Now, what about if the big attack's coming? The good thing about having shield block and shield barrier, as much as I dislike shield barrier, is that we can double them up. With 120 rage via our glyph, which is Glyph of Unending Rage, gives us the extra 20, which means we could do back-to-back a shield block and a full-strength shield barrier. This is coming in very, very fucking handy, guys, when the boss does his big tank attack. So there's lots and lots of bosses in Hellfire Citadel who do this. So you've got Manaroth who does the combo wombo. If you've not met it yet, don't worry about it. But he does a combo wombo where he's going to hit you with an attack that needs to be blocked by active mitigation, which you now know is your shield block or shield barrier. And then he follows it up with like a massive blast, okay, which is a big old blast of damage right in your face. So what you can do is actually put block and shield barrier up and you get a double whammy. And you can also team it up with Demoralizing Shout, so there's 20% reduction on that. And now you see how these big, scary attacks that are super dangerous can actually be easily mitigated without having to resort to things like big shield walls and last stands and all that. Just a little bit of thinking about what the boss is going to do allows you to go, oh, I have this huge amount of damage incoming. What can I do about that? Well, I can block this, which takes 40% off that. Then I can put a shield barrier up, which is going to take like 100k off this hit. And then I can put a Demoralizing Shout on that and reduce the damage all over there. And then I just don't take any damage in comparison to others. I take very, very little damage. I don't spike. This big event has occurred in the fight, and it hasn't been a big deal. Now, this isn't always going to work because things do have a 1 minute cooldown and all this kind of stuff. So that's when you start using your things like Shield Wall and Last Stand. Now, if you have a set bonus, of course, the 4-piece or 2-piece, whichever it is, in Hellfire Citadel, you have a much shorter cooldown on Last Stand. So bear that in mind. And it also works well with Shield Barrier as a little bonus. But on top of that, you're going to need to look to your raid for externals. Now, what I'm going to show you is a screenshot of me in play, and you'll see this add-on here. I use Hermes. It's called Hermes, but there's many that are like it. And as a prot warrior, guys, you're going to have to get used to the idea of looking as to what cooldowns are available to you. And what you're looking to do there is either use these on big attacks or when your active mitigation is starting to fall off. You're in that weird shield block can't be up period. I don't have demo shout here. Shield barrier is just not going to cut it. I need Ironbark. I need pain suppression. I need sacrifice. I need life cocoon. You start asking specifically. A good tank, guys, and you might not like this, but you should enjoy getting used to this. A good tank is not just managing his cooldowns, he's also managing the rest of the raids. And you also have to bear in mind the strength of those cooldowns. Some of those are 20% reduction, some of them are 40%. You need to think about which cooldown suits you at the right time, and do you need the stronger one later on? Do you need the stronger one now and the weaker one later on? And making good decisions about which external cooldowns that the raid can cast on you, and being vocal about asking for them in good time. It's no good like, let's say we use the glaive and the glaive thrust and massive blast on mana off. Let's say for some reason you don't have demo shout, you don't have block ready, you've got no raid for shield barrier because you were doing more DPS than was necessary, all these kind of things. Then you need to go, I need pain suppression. But you don't do it while he's already hit you with a glaive thrust and massive blast is about to cast, right? You go, oh, I'm going to need pain suppression in a few seconds, pain suppression now, then he starts casting it, yeah? You want it on beforehand, need to be calm and relaxed about it. Don't be the panicky guy, I need Ironbark, oh my god! And you're already dead, right? You don't want to be in that scenario. You want to say, oh shit, this is about to run off, especially if you're managing shield blocks. It's really easy to say, oh fuck, in 4 seconds I'm going to be pretty boned here. And that's 4 seconds where you can key up and go, hey, can I get a pain suppression, please? And the situation is fine. Smooth damage intake achieved once again. So that is the general idea of tanking. That is the general idea of your prot warrior, and there should be more than enough to get you started. So let's talk about talents and stuff. Talents and stuff are always going to change. Again, burden yourself with the baggage of what some guys worked the fuck out is like, oh, it's 5 more rage in this scenario. Fuck off, dude. This is how it works in the real world as far as I'm concerned. Some of you will disagree. Absolutely fine with that. Don't worry about it. It's whatever you prefer. I'll give you the reasonings why I chose what I chose. Enraged regen. 1 minute cooldown. Instantly heals you for 10% of your health. When you're looking to have, like I've got now, which is like 530k health just sitting around, and you know, you start padding that up with extra health and all that kind of stuff. Enraged regen is just great. You compare that up, now bear in mind it's 10% of your maximum health, so you compare that up with Last Stand. And remember, this also works with Resolve, which is our ability to gain better healing, which means you compare these up with Last Stand where you've got loads more health, okay, and you can have all sorts of crazy things happening. So with Last Stand, I've got like 800k health, okay, so you add on top of that, I'm getting some great healing out of Enraged Regen. It's on demand, it's an extra cooldown as far as I'm concerned. Level 45, you can take any of these, really. Now, I like Sudden Death. Why do I like Sudden Death? One, it's free. It procs all the fucking time. So you can see it's a 2.81 procs per minute. So it's nearly 3 times per minute. I'll get this. Warlords of Draenor and Hellfire Citadel specifically, guys, is all about ads and making sure ads are dying. If ads die fast, and they usually have reasonably low health, then the boss will die way quicker. What I often find is things like Archimond, where he spawns a Doomfire Spirit, or all these kind of ads that he spawns that have very low health. I can do big executes, bursty damage on demand, and it generally works out really well. And that's the simple fact of it. Generally works out really well just to burst these down. The amount of ads that I've finished off and allowed the raids to get back onto the fight has been amazing. It's been absolutely fantastic and well worth the investment into Sudden Death. At level 60... we tend not to take Stormbolt, we tend to take either Shockwave, but nearly all occasions you'll take Dragon Roar. If you're going to take Shockwave, you're generally looking, is there something I can stun here? Bear in mind, as a tank, stunning ads means they're not hitting you, right? There's not much better mitigation you can get than preventing things from hitting you. So you should always ask yourself, can I stun things here? If you can, Shockwave is great, and always takes over Dragon Roar. Always. If you can stun them, take Shockwave. If you can't, Dragon Roar. It's as simple as that. It's just a nice AoE damage. Bear in mind it is AoE damage, right? There's lots of big clumpy adds that spawn all over the place, and that means that you can do some good damage. Dragon Roar is still a good attack. It also knocks things. It does all kinds of good shit. Dragon Roar is a great spell, but if you're just using it on cooldown, you're doing it wrong. You want to know, is there going to be like an AoE spawn soon? Boom, Dragon Roar. You're just helping out your raid in that little bit of extra way. Level 75, nearly every situation you're taking Vigilance, okay? For your other tank. So I would have some sort of macro cell, like mine just instantly. Vigilance is the other tank. Whoever I'm tanking with, it just is set to my partner tank in the raid. But Vigilance is generally what you're going to be taking, because it's a 30% damage reduction, right? It's fucking super cool. Bear in mind, though, it does reset the cooldown of Taunt, so you can just spam Taunt. There are occasions where that is useful. Really important, guys, that you know the secondary effects of what these spells do. Vigilance is not just a cooldown for your friend. If that guy's not going to need your Vigilance, but you need to do a lot of taunting because there's ads running everywhere, then Vigilance really helps out with that, because you can spam taunt. If your Mocking Banner, for example, is on cooldown, but bear in mind that you have that option. At level 90, right, this is how I think about it. Am I just tanking a boss, like a big fucking sack of health for the majority of the fight? I'm taking Avatar, okay? Avatar can line up with Bloodlust. You can use it with an arm potion to get extra deeps. You can do all kinds of good shit with Avatar, all right? Avatar is very, very cool. Also removes snare effects, so bear that in mind as well. But Avatar, if you're just going to be tanking a boss, take Avatar. You're going to be fine. Are you tanking regularly one big ad? Okay, so Archimon is a great example of this. He spawns like the Doom Lords and all that kind of stuff that need to die pretty regularly. Also, you have to go into the Nether Realm where you have to kill this one ad. That, surprisingly enough, that cooldown is 1 minute. And going into the Nether Realm, if you're doing all of them like I do, is 1 minute. So this really helps out as a DPS boost to those priority targets. Yeah, it's not about aggro or anything like that. It's what's going to enable me to kill the priority targets faster. It's not a lot of damage. You're a tank. You're not doing excessive amounts of damage, but it doesn't mean you're not doing anything. So you need to think of it this way. Am I going to be tanking a dangerous ad that doesn't have a lot of health pretty regularly? Bloodbath is the way to go, which also pairs up with Dragon Roar, so those two work in nice unison. Are you going to be doing tons and tons of AoE tanking? Okay, Bladestorm. All right, Bladestorm is great if you're going to be doing that. I would point out, though, in my experience, we are not the best at doing constant AoE tanking when there's regular ad spawning. So if you do something like Hellfire Assault, Mythic, there are transports that constantly churn out ads. If you've got something like a monk or a paladin in the raid, or even a DK that's just constantly spitting out diseases, unwavering, unstoppable, they're better at doing that. You're better at taking the big named ads, right? Know your strengths and weaknesses, guys. If you just suddenly have to get snap aggro on a group of ads, Bladestorm is great. There will be occasion to use it. At level 100, there's only one choice in my mind, and it's Gladiator's Resolve. Ravager is just a DPS increase as far as I'm concerned. If you're looking to do some parsing, try and get on some sort of ranking meter, then take Ravager. There's just no occasion I've seen so far where taking Gladiator's Resolve is worse. And obviously we're not going to Gladiator stance. It's the passive damage reduction that we just have all the time, okay? Increase the damage reduction provided by defensive stance by 5%. It's actually about 6.67 in reality with our other bonuses. So something to bear in mind there is Gladiator's Resolve is boring as fuck. It's great while soloing though. You gotta go and do your Tanan dailies. You can just pop over into Gladiator stance and do a load of damage. But in general, it's just a passive that sits there and does its business. Okay? So Gladiator's Resolve is the best way to go. Your glyphs, Unending Rage is the mandatory one for that reason that we can back-to-back block and barrier. Very, very handy. Enraged Speed. I love Enraged Speed, 20% movement speed. The faster you move, the quicker you get to ads, the quicker you get aggro, the quicker you can gather them, all kinds of good stuff. Enraged Speed is generally great. Glyph of Cleave, nearly every fight in Hellfire Citadel has some sort of cleave aspect to it. You're going to be heroic striking anyway because it procs, and therefore Glyph of Cleave is nice to have from there. But there's other choices there. Glyph of Gag Order actually comes in very handy on certain fights. I would look at Hellfire Assault Mythic as well. Gag Ordering the Fellcasters to create good, solid groups is always really nice. Moving through here, there's another one I wanted to mention. Shield Slam. I want you guys to be aware of Shield Slam. Dispels one magical effect. If you're doing a lot of Mythic dungeons or you're looking to do that kind of content, being able to dispel a mob is amazing. And your Shield Slam procs so often that you can be the big dispeller. You can actually be the big carry in that situation. So something to bear in mind there of how good that is. Very, very cool. Okay. Also look to things like Glyph of Death from Above. Now, there's not many fights in Hellfire Citadel actually need this, which was the lower cooldown. It was more like Cormog or Cromog or whatever he was called. When you had Slam, you could make sure you can leap away on all cooldowns and that kind of stuff, but not a big deal. In general, you're going to look at something like this. All right, very, very simple. When it comes to our DP, our actual rotation, so I'll throw that in. I'll talk about that now. It's very, very simple. As I said, Shield Slam and Revenge generate rage. The more rage we have, the more times we can use Shield Block and Shield Barrier. It's really as simple as that. So while we go in and we do our damage, we're looking to just generate as much rage. I have some way of tracking sudden death should it happen, but Shield Slam procs, be ready. Devastate is your filler, okay? But as soon as something else procs or comes off cooldown, as soon as Shield Slam or Revenge comes off cooldown, you're going to stop Devastating. Now, what you'll find is in many scenarios is Devastate will go unused for a huge amount of time because Revenge and Shield Slam are proccing so goddamn often. What we're also looking for is our Heroic Strike proc, okay? Heroic Strike is a rage spender, so you're off tanking for a really long period of time, guys. Feel free to like throw in some Heroic Strikes, no big deal with that, but in general we're going to use them on procs when you'll get your notification to go ahead and do that. Also bear in mind your Berserker Rage. Okay, Berserker Rage gives you some rage, also nice to get some extra rage unless you're going to be feared. Not many, in fact Blizzard has actively disabled the ability to break fear in many occasions inside Hellfire Citadel, which is truly annoying because as a warrior I find it disgusting that I should ever have to be feared, but they have gone ahead and changed some things from week 1 where we could break fear to moments where we can't. Some other spells you really should be aware of is Mocking Banner. Never gets enough use. It's so cool, okay? It's your AoE taunt spell. Just throw it down, let it do its thing. Intimidating Shout is there. Alright, it is there. We very rarely use it, but it is something that's there. But Heroic Throw as well. Remember, if you do have a lot of stunnable ads around, interruptible ads, and you're trying to create Death Balls. Death Balls is getting all the ads into one particular place, so your DPS is better. Then, of course, Glyph of Heroic Throw is absolutely fantastic. Intervene. Wonderful spell. Please get used to using this, especially if you have to do a lot of moving around. Bear in mind you can, of course, intervene your Mocking Banner. So if you need to move around very quickly, look how fast you can move around. Your mobility as a warrior is the best thing in the universe, and you really want to be doing that. And also Spell Reflect. People forget Spell Reflect because it's on such a long cooldown now. It's like 25 seconds. Hilarious. But there are lots of things inside Hellfire Citadel, bosses like Dia, who can have their spells reflected and do a lot of damage back to them. So bear that in mind, guys. One little tip I will give you before we go into some gameplay, which you can click on the side and we'll jump into that, is please bear in mind that when you get to low health, when the target gets to low health, spamming execute is probably a bad idea unless it's under the effects of sudden death. Losing all that rage and all your mitigation will probably lead to a wipe more often than your crappy 70k execute will actually lead to a kill. Alright guys, thank you for listening. I hope that's helped you out a lot. I'm sure some of you are wondering about stats. Very, very simple. It's bonus armor as much as possible. Bonus armor, and then of course mastery. Get your mastery up and crit after that, but it doesn't really matter after that because, you know, after that you're looking at weaker stats anyway. What you'd want to be doing is like gemming things like mastery and all that kind of stuff. Alright guys, thank you very much for listening. Let's jump into some gameplay now. I hope you come with me. Bye bye.